que ustedes lo han visto en la tribuna varias veces, que es interesante, pero yo también quiero hacer hincapié en esto. Alain Lawrence, que es quien ustedes ven allí al lado mío, es el fundador del grupo Balfour Capital Group, que dentro de otras cosas interactúa con muchos asesores independientes que indudablemente quieren tratar de ingresar al mercado de capitales. Y aparte de esa propaganda, él no solamente es el fundador, sino es quien funge lo que sería Chief Investment Officer, que es básicamente el oficial dentro de la compañía que está examinando cómo se deben construir los portafolios. Y él, give me a second, Steve, y él hace unas semanas atrás, prácticamente en esos días de eso que se llamó el Liberation Day, el Día de la Liberación, fue uno de los primeros analistas que nos dijo, el mercado va a subir. Y en algunos momentos el mercado hizo ciertos brotes a la baja, donde probablemente no hubiésemos tomado en serio sus consideraciones, pero el mercado ha seguido subiendo. Y en las últimas dos oportunidades que lo hemos tenido, ha estado nuevamente correcto, donde nos indica el mercado sigue subiendo. Así que la pregunta obviamente va a ser con él, ¿qué va a pasar en el mercado en las próximas semanas? Steve, thank you for coming here to del cierre de Wall Street. And I want to ask you straightforward, even though the market has been coming back dramatically from your last appearance and for your previous one and from the Liberation Day, do you think the market is going to keep going up in the event they cut rates, or you think that it will be a little deterioration towards the summer here in the U.S.? And thank you for coming, Steve.
Well, thank you for having me, and hopefully I can be impactful for the listeners globally, for you and your world audience. What I can say to you is as follows, okay? The market will go higher here. Okay, the reason why the market's going to go higher is basically strictly on the facts of where you're seeing things. The facts are is this: you can't put your money anywhere else but the market. What, are you going to put your money in the bank? Okay, you're going to get, chump change. Okay, you're not going to make any money. But when there are quality companies out there, which we see globally in every sector right now, numbers don't lie, people do. That's what the listeners need to understand. Rates, they're irrelevant at this point because they're already placed into the market. It's about the psychology of the hug fest that's going to happen between Xi and Trump, and that is the reality.
And do you think, Steve, that call will go fine for President Trump? Because based on the information that we have, and I'm glad you touched that very sensitive point for the market, Steve, we feel like the Chinese are playing hardball and it's working for them. I think the Chinese has been extremely silent, extremely looking forward for what Trump have to offer. Remember, Trump put 145% tariff. He came back, then he negotiated in Geneva, then he's being bombastic through social. But I think Xi Jinping has been slowly taking some sort of control, and I'm not that bullish that call with actually gave the U.S. a pot into all this. What do you think about that potential call, and how is your perception of the Asian market, specifically on China, where I know you have a lot of expertise as well?
I mean, listen, China is cheap and it goes higher. Everything goes higher here. All of it does. The only markets that don't go higher, okay, are like Turkey. Okay, there's certain areas of pockets of weakness that, a country could implode. But not only is China going higher, so is the U.S., because there's systemic long-term growth. I mean, look at today. You had Xi buy 300, China bought 300 airplanes from Airbus. That's above and beyond the orders that they have with Boeing. So everything talks to everything else. The reality is this: they need each other, they're going to do a deal, and how are you going to be able to predict that deal? And you're seeing it right now in technology. I mean, like a day like today, CrowdStrike got cracked, okay? But CrowdStrike is not a buy, it's a screaming buy, okay? So when something goes up that fast, it's okay for it to go down 5, 10, 15%. And now you're seeing the rotation into pharma now. You're going to see some pharma stocks that are going to just take off because of intrinsic value. It's all about what you buy, when you buy it, and how much you buy. And that's it.
Give me 1 second, Steve, so I can tell them what you mentioned en español. Una de las cosas interesantes que nos está diciendo él es indudablemente dentro de su espectro de, digamos, análisis y pronóstico hacia el futuro, que prácticamente todos los mercados estarían por subir, inclusive aún más desde donde se encuentran ahora. Y quiero también decirles que Steve estuvo con Tom Lee, estuvo con Jim Bianco en nuestro último video hace alrededor de unos 15 días atrás, y donde efectivamente tanto Tom Lee como Steve están en el mismo nivel de apreciación de hacia dónde deberían ir los mercados. Recuérdense que nosotros en algunos casos empezamos a estar incrédulos porque creemos que los mercados han llegado a un lugar donde estarían apaciguándose. Él nos está diciendo ahora, y creo que es bien importante que lo tomemos en cuenta porque ha estado bastante asertivo, que pudiese haber una rotación, es decir, dinero sale de un sector, no necesariamente para bajar, sino una salida importante de dinero de algunos sectores para entrar en el sector farmacéutico, que cuando él dice lo evaluamos de manera intrínseca, que es básicamente la real valoración de la compañía, cuando hacemos y aplicamos la matemática, pudiese perfectamente verse afectada de manera positiva. Yo creo que es bien interesante lo que él nos dice allí, pues hay que prestarle atención a lo que Pfizer está haciendo. Ayer hablábamos de Glaxo y de otras compañías del sector farmacéutico. Steve, I also want your opinion on the 10-year, because we've been seeing the bond very stubborn in 440 something, close to 450, but today is the first day in like a week where we see the bonds coming down in terms of yields towards 436, where we are today, which is 3:36 p.m. Eastern time, and the bond is at 436. Where do you think that the 10 years will go? Do you think inflation will calm down? Do you see that the Federal Reserve will cut rates soon? What is your perception on that based on your analysis? Because obviously that's something that everybody's paying attention to.
Listen, okay, everything's already priced into the market, okay, but to answer your question directly, okay, the Fed, in my opinion, will not cut rates for the simple reason that inflation is still there and they've got to play it smart. They just do, okay? And that's and that is really, you know, the hardest part about any industry. It doesn't matter what the business is, okay? The Federal Reserve is in a business, okay, of issuing money and buying paper, okay? And at the end of the day, how can they execute that without affecting the long-term effects of the guy on Main Street? That's what you need to understand. And that's what the viewers need to understand. 1/4 point, 1/2 point is not going to even make a difference. What really is going to make a difference right now, Victor, is the idea of fear and greed and negotiations.
Steve, in the other corner, now that we are basically close to the non-farm payroll, and I hear you clearly to say that the Fed might not cut rate because it won't affect the regular people in the street, and you think that it's a non-event at this point, they can keep the rate at this level. You mentioned go to pharma, you mentioned that every market will go up on a section on Turkey. What do you think is going to happen based on the ADP today with the non-farm payroll on Friday? Because remember, we're going to bring you back in probably another week or so, and we want to track you on that detailed prediction. So we will see what happened next Wednesday, I think, with the actual CPI. What do you think about the non-farm payroll, el número del empleo el día viernes?
Let's talk about the ADP. I mean, you know, you had 37,000 private sector jobs were added for May, and they expected 110,000. Okay, so we know, okay, that the analysts, okay, don't know much. And suckers, okay, bet on numbers of what, you know, what the number is going to be. Okay, that's a sucker's bet. You know, real investors, okay, will not look at what's the number going to be and where it's going to go. What real investors need to understand is you're either in it for the long term. If you're in it for the short term, that's going to be a tough game. Period, end of story. You're not going to be able to time certain things in the market, especially economic numbers in any country.
Steve, Do you think that the inflation might go down next week when we have the lecture for the May? Or you think that this tariff environment will keep the inflation up? Based on the ISM, it seems to be up, but based on the other indications like these ADP and few others, we might see the inflation coming down.
You know, let me say this to you with inflation, okay? It's here and it's going to remain, and it's how they're going to manifest that number to make someone feel comfortable that the consumer can buy. That's it, okay? I mean, it's a very black and white thing. Even if the numbers say that inflation is ticked down, when you go to the store, the price is still the same. All right, so it's so much more than that. It's buying assets that have intrinsic value with long-term growth, which would be companies in various sectors, whether it's AI, whether it's pharma, whether it's financial sectors. That is truly the bottom line. All right, but to speculate on a number for next week, you're better off going to a casino and having a better shot with a 50-50 bet.
Excellent. So listen, Steve, now to finish, there is any recommendation that you want to tell the audience? Remember, we want to bring you back soon for the next 7 days that you think you can manage next week. I understand that it's very difficult to time the market, but do you have any good trade for the next week when we get you back, or you want to just leave it as it is with pharma? What do you think?
Let me just say this, Joe. I'll give you a couple of picks that I think could really, really take off, okay, potentially. You know, you could see, you know, Meta go to at least 740. You could also see companies like CrowdStrike that got smacked today go back, you know, be up, you know, be neutral based on what they are right now. And you can also see on the tech side, and NVIDIA could theoretically break out to all-time highs. Okay, all right, that's what I see. Okay, but the oil is the play. You know.
Ok, so listen, I'm going to tell them in español. Give me 1 second. Él está diciendo que obviamente hay cosas en Pharma que le tenemos que prestar atención a CrowdStrike, que aunque fue básicamente, digamos, vendida el día de hoy, puede tener una oportunidad, pero creo que su percepción más importante es que le empecemos a prestar atención a lo que son los precios del petróleo, porque indiscutiblemente es donde puede irse el dinero. Steve, thank you very much for coming. So again, we want to try to get you back pretty soon, next week probably, because we want to track all those comments from you, and we're very happy you've been at least extremely assertive and right in your comments. Thank you for coming, Steve.
Claramente, mi español es pasito over time, okay? Thank you Victor, you're the best. Thank you so much for the opportunity and for the viewers. I hope they get something out of it. That's what it's for.
Thank you very much, Steve.
You're welcome.
Gracias.